the summer of 1997, Ethan and Lily Harper were freshly married, their excitement still shining from the glow of their wedding day. They were city dwellers, used to the constant hum of traffic and the bright lights of downtown, and they longed for a retreat where the air was crisp, the stars were bright, and the world slowed down to the rhythm of nature. That's when they discovered the remote Appalachian Treehouse, an off-the-grid escape tucked deep in the mountains, accessible only by a narrow winding trail that promised isolation, adventure, and a break from everything familiar. The brochures painted it as idyllic, wooden planks suspended between sturdy trees, panoramic views of endless forests, and a cozy fireplace perfect for evenings together. Their drive up the twisting roads into the mountains was filled with laughter and playful teasing, the kind that only newlyweds share. Yet, as the city receded behind them and the trees grew taller and denser, a subtle unease began to creep in. The forest was beautiful, yes, but it also carried an air of mysterious solitude. Even the birds seemed quieter here. Ethan, ever the optimist, reassured Lily with a smile. It's just the mountains being, mountains. Let's just enjoy it. But Lily felt something she couldn't name, a sense that the woods were alive in ways she didn't fully understand. When they first approached the treehouse, it seemed to rise out of the forest almost magically, suspended among thick oak and pine. The structure looked inviting from the outside, sturdy beams, a wraparound deck, and rustic lanterns that swayed gently in the wind. Yet as they stepped onto the deck and looked down at the steep drop below, a shiver ran through Lily. The forest floor was hidden by shadows and fog, and the silence was almost too perfect. For the first time, she noticed how isolated they really were. No other cabins in sight. No sound of vehicles or voices. Just the two of them, and the trees. Inside, the treehouse was warm and cozy, with rough-hewn furniture and a small kitchen that seemed almost too quaint to be real. The couple unpacked their bags, laughing as they explored each corner, and Ethan even joked about how romantic it would be if a bear wandered past the window. They lit the fireplace, hung a few lights, and planned a small dinner, feeling a rare sense of freedom and privacy. But as dusk fell, the shadows in the corners of the treehouse seemed to stretch longer than they should, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching them from beyond the trees. Night fell, and the forest transformed into a living, breathing entity. The sound of crickets was punctuated by strange rustlings and distant snaps, branches breaking somewhere far away, yet close enough to send their hearts racing. From the deck, they could barely see through the dense canopy of leaves, only the occasional flicker of moonlight guiding their eyes. Despite the beauty, the deeper they ventured into the mountains, the more Lily's unease grew. This was supposed to be their dream getaway, an escape into serenity, but the shadows and the silence whispered otherwise. Something in the Appalachians seemed unseen but present, and the couple's adventure had taken on a new, unsettling dimension. By the second night in the treehouse, the Harpers had settled in just enough to feel comfortable, but the forest outside was starting to show its darker side. What had seemed serene during the day now carried an eerie undertone. The wind through the pines wasn't just rustling leaves. It sounded almost like whispers, faint voices that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Lily mentioned it quietly to Ethan, her voice trembling ever so slightly. "Did you hear that?" Ethan laughed it off, attributing it to the wind and the way the old treehouse creaked. Yet even as he reassured her, a tingling sense of unease began to prick at his own instincts. As the evening grew later, the noises outside seemed to increase, almost as if someone, or something, was moving closer. Hikers passing the area during the day had later told authorities about shadowy shapes slipping between the trees, disappearing whenever they tried to get a better look. The Harpers' secluded location made it impossible to dismiss these accounts entirely. Inside the treehouse, Lily often felt eyes on her, a subtle but constant pressure that made her skin crawl. Ethan tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but each laugh carried a tension that neither of them could shake. The forest seemed to be watching, waiting, and breathing with a rhythm entirely its own. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, Lily noticed strange marks on the treehouse floor, almost like scratches that hadn't been there earlier. They were faint, but unmistakable, tiny, deliberate lines etched into the wood. Ethan bent down to inspect them, trying to convince himself it was nothing, maybe a quirk in the old timber. But the marks had a pattern, almost too symmetrical to be natural. A chill ran down Lily's spine. It was as if someone, or something, had been there without leaving footprints, without disturbing the rest of the space. The forest silence outside felt suddenly heavier, oppressive, and intentional. Later, around midnight, Lily awoke to a sound she could not explain, a faint tapping on the outer walls of the treehouse. It wasn't rhythmic like a branch falling, nor random like a woodpecker. It was deliberate, almost testing, almost teasing. She nudged Ethan awake, whispering urgently, "Something's out there." Ethan's response was calm at first, a soft "it's probably nothing," but he too felt the weight of unease pressing against the cabin walls. The couple stayed awake for hours, listening to the forest's subtle, eerie communications. Twigs snapping, leaves shuffling, whispers floating in the night air, and for the first time, both felt truly alone in the vast, shadowed mountains. By the early hours of the morning, the noises stopped as suddenly as they had started. Silence engulfed the treehouse, but the tension lingered. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that the forest had tested them, observed them, and now was watching their next move. Ethan tried to calm her with soft reassurances, but neither spoke of the growing fear that had settled in their chests. That night, in the heart of the Appalachian wilderness, the Harpers realized that their dream escape had become something else entirely, a place where the boundary between beauty and terror blurred, and the forest held secrets far older and darker than they could have imagined. On the morning of July 18th, 1997, everything seemed normal at first glance. The Harpers' car was still parked neatly at the trailhead, tires dusted with the dirt of the winding mountain road, and the surrounding forest looked untouched, almost serene under the early sun. But when a local hiker wandered closer to the treehouse, an unsettling truth became apparent. The couple was gone. There were no signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, and their belongings remained inside as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Wallets, phones, a half-packed picnic basket, everything they had brought with them was still there, left behind in a scene that made no sense. The local sheriff was the first to arrive after a frantic call from concerned friends who hadn't heard from the couple. He combed the treehouse meticulously, checking every room, every corner, even the loft above. Nothing. Not a single clue suggested what had happened. The only anomaly was a set of footprints in the soft mud outside, but they ended abruptly at the edge of a steep slope, leaving no trail. It was as if Ethan and Lily had simply been lifted from the ground, swallowed whole by the forest. Rumors began to ripple through the nearby town, whispers of disappearances that couldn't be explained by ordinary accidents or foul play. The FBI was called in after local searches yielded nothing. Helicopters scanned the forest from above, teams of trackers combed the dense underbrush, and bloodhounds were brought in to follow the scent. Yet the forest gave up no answers. Every clue seemed to evaporate into the mist and shadows, leaving investigators frustrated and anxious. It was the kind of mystery that made seasoned agents pause, a disappearance that defied logic, where every lead only deepened the enigma rather than solved it. Even technology failed them. The radio signals from their phones were inactive, yet the devices were found inside the cabin, untouched. Locals who lived near the mountain trails began to report strange occurrences in the days following the disappearance. Some claimed they saw figures moving silently among the trees, figures that seemed familiar yet impossible to identify. Others heard faint laughter echoing at odd hours or glimpsed lights flickering deep in the forest where no fires should have been. The collective unease grew as the story spread, and the treehouse itself became a symbol of fear, a place that had transformed from a romantic getaway into a scene of unanswered questions and creeping dread. Families of the Harpers were desperate, refusing to accept that their loved ones were gone without a trace. Friends organized search parties, combing every trail and ravine they could find, but the mountains seemed to protect their secrets. Each passing day only intensified the fear that the forest itself was hiding Ethan and Lily, keeping them locked in a nightmare that no one could penetrate. By the time the FBI concluded the initial search, it was clear that this was no ordinary missing persons case. The Harpers had vanished into the Appalachians, and the woods that had promised peace and adventure had become a labyrinth of mystery, shadows, and something far more sinister. As the initial shock of Ethan and Lily's disappearance faded, investigators began combing the area around the treehouse with renewed intensity. What they found was baffling. In the muddy ground near the cabin, there were tiny handprints, far too small to belong to an adult, yet impossibly human in shape. They seemed to lead nowhere, vanishing abruptly as if whoever, or whatever, made them had melted into the forest itself. Officers and trackers were baffled, whispering among themselves about the inexplicable nature of the evidence. The Harpers' disappearance was no longer just a missing persons case, it was something far stranger, something that didn't fit into the rules of logic or reason. Investigators also noticed trees near the treehouse that had been damaged in peculiar ways. Branches were broken, not at natural angles, but snapped sharply, as though grabbed by enormous hands or yanked violently. Leaves on the forest floor were scorched in small circular patterns, strange burn marks that defied natural explanation. Some agents whispered about the old Appalachian legends, stories of spirits and creatures that haunted the mountains, known to lead travelers astray. While many dismissed it as folklore, the forest itself seemed almost complicit in hiding the truth, leaving only these eerie signs to hint that something unnatural had occurred. Inside the treehouse, the investigators found even more perplexing clues. The couple's belongings were untouched, yet there were faint scratches on the walls and floorboards, delicate yet deliberate. Some looked almost like a message, though no one could decipher it. A few items, Ethan's watch, Lily's scarf, were moved slightly from where they had been left, as if an invisible hand had rearranged them. Cameras set up by the FBI to monitor the area during the investigation captured nothing. No intruders, no wildlife, only the swaying of branches and the shifting shadows of leaves, making the place feel alive in a way that was deeply unsettling. Local townspeople began adding their own accounts to the growing mystery. Hikers reported feeling sudden chills, hearing whispers that seemed to carry names, or spotting shadowy figures that disappeared when approached. One older man, who had grown up in the mountains, told investigators that the forest in this part of the Appalachians had a history of swallowing people whole. Lost hikers, loggers, even small families had vanished over decades, leaving behind only cryptic signs or strange imprints. He spoke in hushed tones, warning that some places were too old, too restless for humans to fully understand. The FBI noted his statements but tried to focus on physical evidence, even as the unexplained signs continued to accumulate. As days turned into weeks, the clues became more disturbing. Items from the treehouse would occasionally appear in impossible places, deeper in the forest than any person could reasonably carry them. Investigators found small mounds of dirt, disturbed foliage, and occasional scratches on tree trunks at odd heights, suggesting the Harpers, or something representing them, had moved in ways that defied human limitations. Each discovery added a layer of dread, making even the most seasoned agents uneasy. Whatever had taken Ethan and Lily seemed to leave just enough evidence to taunt, but never enough to reveal the truth. The forest, it appeared, was not only hiding them, it was mocking those who sought answers. Several months after Ethan and Lily's disappearance, the FBI received a tip from a local hiker named Tom Grayson, who claimed to have seen something that defied all logic. Tom had been hiking a lesser-known trail, several miles from the treehouse, when he noticed two figures walking hand-in-hand through the dense underbrush. At first, he thought it might be lost campers, but as he drew closer, his heart stopped. The figures were unmistakably Ethan and Lily, yet there was something wrong about them. Their movements were slow and deliberate, almost unnatural, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. Tom recalled that the couple appeared dazed, as if in a trance, their eyes vacant but fixed on a point somewhere deeper in the forest. The sunlight filtering through the trees hit their faces in odd patterns, making them look almost ghostly. He froze, hidden behind a thicket, too terrified to call out. He watched as Ethan and Lily moved further into the mountains, following a path that didn't exist on any map he knew. Something about their posture, the rigidity in their shoulders, the way their heads tilted unnaturally, made his blood run cold. Tom would later tell investigators that he felt a presence behind them, something ancient and watching, guiding them deeper into the wilderness. Terrified yet compelled, Tom followed at a distance, keeping the couple in sight as best he could. He described an unnatural silence surrounding them. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, and the usual forest sounds seemed muted. Every step they took appeared deliberate, almost rehearsed, as though they were walking toward a destination that was calling them. Tom felt an overwhelming sense of dread, like the air itself was warning him to turn back. But his curiosity, and the need to report what he had seen, kept him moving quietly behind them, his heart pounding with every snap of a twig. After a mile or more, Tom lost sight of the couple in a sudden fog that rolled through the trees without warning. He shouted, calling their names, but his voice was swallowed instantly by the dense mist. By the time he reached the area where he last saw them, Ethan and Lily had vanished completely, leaving behind only footprints that dissolved as if they had never existed. The forest was silent once again, but the chill that ran down his spine lingered, a silent testimony to the terror he had witnessed. Tom's account sent shockwaves through the FBI, who realized that this disappearance might involve forces beyond normal human comprehension. The witness's testimony also sparked renewed interest in the old Appalachian legends, the stories of spirits, guardians of the forest, and unexplained vanishings that had haunted the mountains for generations. Investigators debated whether Tom had hallucinated or whether his account revealed a critical piece of the puzzle. But the detail in his description, the trance-like behavior, the unnatural silence, and the sudden fog, matched subtle signs found near the treehouse and along the trails. Whatever had taken Ethan and Lily seemed to have a method, a purpose, and perhaps an intelligence that made the forest itself a deadly maze for anyone who dared enter. After years of dead ends and frustrating searches, the FBI finally made a breakthrough in 2003, 6 years after Ethan and Lily vanished. Their investigation led them to a network of abandoned logging paths and hidden cabins several miles from the original treehouse. These structures had been long forgotten, reclaimed by nature, and almost invisible beneath thick overgrowth. Agents discovered that these paths formed a maze-like system, one that seemed designed to confuse anyone who entered. It was a startling revelation. The couple may not have wandered aimlessly but had instead been led, or trapped, into a carefully concealed part of the Appalachian wilderness. During the search of one hollowed-out cabin, FBI agents discovered a torn, weathered journal belonging to Lily. The pages were filled with frantic notes, sketches of the forest, and unsettling entries about shadows watching from above and whispers guiding me at night. She described a feeling of being pulled deeper into the mountains, a sensation that was both terrifying and hypnotic. Each page revealed more of the fear that Ethan and Lily endured, showing that they had been aware of a presence far beyond the ordinary. The journal also included a crude map of the forest, with small notations that suggested areas where strange events or markings had been observed. The forensic team carefully analyzed the journal and the surrounding area, noting odd symbols etched into tree trunks and subtle disturbances in the soil that indicated movement patterns no human could easily navigate. Investigators speculated that the Harpers had been following, or being followed by, something intelligent, something capable of guiding and manipulating them within the dense forest. This breakthrough transformed the investigation from a typical missing persons case into a scenario that bordered on the paranormal. The forest wasn't just a backdrop, it was now seen as an active participant in their disappearance. FBI agents also discovered additional evidence near the abandoned cabins, items that had belonged to the couple, scattered in patterns that suggested deliberate placement rather than random loss. Lily's scarf was draped over a railing, Ethan's lighter wedged between two logs, as if left to be found but in a way that misled investigators. The forest floor showed signs of repeated disturbances, small mounds, displaced leaves, and depressions in the soil, hinting that the Harpers had moved through the area multiple times. Every piece of evidence hinted at a deliberate design, a path or ritual that was hidden within the dense Appalachian wilderness. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the breakthrough was the psychological insight gleaned from the journal. Lily wrote of being followed by eyes in the trees, hearing soft whispers calling her name, and sensing a presence that seemed both malevolent and protective at the same time. The entries suggested that Ethan and Lily were caught in a psychological trap as much as a physical one, with the forest itself manipulating their perceptions. This discovery sent shockwaves through the investigative team, forcing them to confront the unnerving possibility that the Appalachian wilderness had secrets that defied conventional explanation, and that the Harpers' disappearance was far from ordinary. Even decades later, the Appalachian treehouse where Ethan and Lily vanished remains abandoned and shrouded in an almost unnatural silence. Locals avoid the area, speaking about it only in hushed tones. Hikers who dare to pass nearby report strange occurrences, flickering lights through the trees, sudden drops in temperature, and whispers that seem to echo names from the past. The treehouse, once a symbol of romance and adventure, has become a warning. Many believe the forest itself retains the memory of what happened, and that it guards its secrets jealously, allowing no one to leave fully unscathed if they come too close. Stories of Ethan and Lily have grown into modern Appalachian legend, a tale told to newcomers and children alike. Some speak of seeing fleeting shadows moving high in the trees, resembling human figures, but vanishing when approached. Others claim that certain paths twist back on themselves, leading hikers into confusion or despair, almost as if the forest is alive and aware. For the locals, the disappearance is more than history. It is a constant reminder that the mountains can hold terrifying mysteries that defy reason and logic. Investigators who have returned over the years report a persistent sense of unease, even fear, when stepping into the area. The abandoned cabins and paths discovered during the FBI's breakthrough are now overgrown, but they seem to emit an almost tangible presence. Some agents report hearing faint cries or footsteps when no one else is near, and a few have refused to return, describing the area as something that watches you the longer you stay. The legend of the Harpers' disappearance has blurred with folklore, leaving a chilling, almost supernatural reputation that keeps the curious at bay. The Harpers' families continue to grapple with their loss. Every anniversary of their disappearance is marked with quiet sorrow and renewed hope that someday, somehow, answers might surface. Yet, with every new account of strange noises, shadowy figures, or vanished hikers in the same mountains, it becomes clear that the Appalachians have a memory far older and stranger than anyone could imagine. The forest's presence is no longer just a backdrop. It is a character, a force that shapes the story, and one that refuses to relinquish the Harpers or their secrets. For thrill seekers, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts, the Treehouse and surrounding woods have become a destination steeped in fear and fascination. Cameras are left to capture what the human eye might miss, flashlights sweep through empty cabins, and yet the mountains remain impenetrable, elusive, and watchful. The Harpers' story serves as both cautionary tale and allure, drawing people closer to the mystery while reminding them of the forest's uncharted power and endless, unsettling secrets. Even today, those who venture too far risk being pulled into the same enigma that claimed Ethan and Lily, leaving the mountains as the ultimate arbiter of who disappears and who survives. As night falls over the Appalachian Mountains, the forest seems to exhale, carrying with it the echoes of Ethan and Lily Harper. Their fate remains a mystery, vanished, yet somehow still present, woven into the very fabric of the woods. Some say if you walk the trails alone, you might hear a whisper, a footstep, or a fleeting shadow between the trees. The mountains keep their secrets, and the forest remembers. Ethan and Lily may be gone, but the legend of the Treehouse endures, a haunting reminder that some places are alive with mysteries no human can fully understand. The Harper's story is a warning, a chilling truth. When you enter the wilderness, you never truly know what watches, what follows, or what may never let you leave. So, the next time you hear whispers in the woods, or see lights flicker in the darkness where no one should be, remember the Appalachian Treehouse, and remember that some secrets are meant to remain forever hidden in the shadows.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.